Hi, folks. Back in the 80s, there was a massive drug epidemic going on, and most of our elected officials pretty much threw up their hands in attempting to figure out how best to deal with it. They didn't know what to do. America was literally overrun with drugs. You couldn't really do anything about the drugs until you did something about the demand for those drugs. So we would see slogans suddenly appear like, just say no, or this is your brain on drugs. Those were well intentioned ads, I'll say. The cynical part of me is like, those are stupid. But because, drug addiction is a whole lot more complicated than just say no. But that's where we were in the 1980s. And that's why I scratch my head when I see Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth say, if I get the job, I'll just stop drinking. I say that as a recovering addict, 21 years. I say that as someone who has seen people struggle to remain sober. Uh, and I call bullshit. I call bullshit. And why are we even having this discussion as if Pete Hegseth is the one and only person equipped for this job? Because even without the alcoholism, he is way underqualified for that job. Everybody knows it, even Trump. So why are we going through this exercise? Well, I plan to get into that, and I plan to get into a bunch of other issues about Donald Trump's awful cabinet picks, about the possibility of President Biden issuing some more blanket uh, uh, pardons, and the possibility even of seeing, if only for one day, a President Harris. Are you ready? I am. Let's go. Story time. Welcome to another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Happy Friday, guys. Happy Friday indeed. I'm always happy on Friday, and I'm especially happy when I hear my jam that. So let me just say a quick hello to my folks in the chat here. I see Zelda. There you are at the top where you belong. Bernadette H is right behind you, followed by Valerie G, Claudia, Fox Hill Dreams, Lucielle, Diane London. Scrolling, did I say Claudia? There's Claudia again. RJ is here. Misdemeanor. Okay. Tracy M, aka Nurse Mitch, is here. Punk Satani Mo back in the saddle. Mary Margaret Rachel, you could insert some spaces in there. Thank you, Mary. Wilbur McCarthy is here. Stephanie L from Florida. Cindy C. Philosophy is here. Samantha Hawkins. Miva Word is here. BR says, "Sup, peeps? Barb tries, but she can call me Barbara." And oh my goodness, there she is, Zelda. Zelda, my friend, thank you. Thank you so kindly from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for the kind, very generous donation. Really appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so let's I'm going to try to get the every week. I feel like every week I promise to try to change this pace a little bit. I'm gonna try again until we get there. So let's do a quick recap of what I like to call the stories of the day.
Stories of the day.
Stories of the day. All right, so today's graphic is just say hell no. Do you see what I did there? I had the intro with the just say no thing, but just say hell no. So what I did, it was a spin off of the this is your brain on drugs and the just say no with these awful cabinet picks. Um, so yeah, could Biden issue preemptive pardons? Yes, he can. And he can actually do a whole hell of a lot in a relatively short period of time that would make MAGA's hairs go on fire. Who wouldn't love to see that? I, for one, would. But what would make their really flip their lids? Um, yeah, it's petty, but it is a possibility. I think if President Biden were to step down a day or even a week before he's supposed to, so that uh, so that Kamala Harris becomes our 47th president. And that would make Donald Trump have to throw out all of his 45 47 memorabilia. Why not? And last but not least, the worst cabinet pick so far. Every day you turn on the news and they're talking about how bad these picks are. Well, what's the deal? Why is he deliberately going out of his way to pick the worst people possible when he literally has, you know, thousands of people to choose from? We'll get into that. But first, please remember to hit the subscribe button and also please hit the like button as well. The like button, as you know, it looks like my thumbs up right there. Punxsutawney Mo. I'm saying, what is the effing price of eggs? Yeah. The price of eggs right now is actually still okay, but it's going to spike soon. Something else that is spiked is the population of the app, the very popular app Blue Sky. Blue Sky has become the off ramp alternative for left wing users of Twitter. Refuse to call it X. And we've found for ourselves an oasis in the middle of social media madness. A relatively troll free. I can't say completely troll free because there are still, the occasional trolls I'll come across in my threads and my posts on Blue Sky, but it's nothing like what you see on Twitter. It's night and day difference. It is literally a breath of fresh air. It's not like catch your breath toxic. And some of you may have noticed, before I move on to that, Blue Sky now has 24 million users. Jay Graber, who is the CEO of Blue Sky, has vowed to keep it from enshittification. And what is enshittification? That is ads. And she has vowed to try to keep ads from interrupting our social media bliss. So What does that mean in the long run? It means that ultimately, in the middle of expansion, in the middle of all this growth, we may end up having to pay for some advanced features, better maybe, because right now you can only post a video that is 1 minute. Maybe it's, for $3 a month, you can post a 5 minute video or a 10-minute video or whatever. And maybe they give you the edit button. Maybe they'll create some bookmarks, whatever. I'm down for it, actually. If we can get all of the good shit that we had in Twitter and none of the bad shit, sign me up. I'm down. I'm down for that. Um, and also some of the really good shit that's on Blue Sky that Twitter never had, to my knowledge, is starter packs. So starter packs is the thing. In fact, many of you already know what the starter packs are, because you've been in my starter packs. But for those who don't know, those who are catching this on replay, starter pack is um, when you get a file that has anywhere from 50 to 150 user accounts that have kind of been pre-vetted. These are people that you've added, that you're telling your friends and the people around you, like, these folks are all right. I know them. They're good accounts. Please follow them. And it's kind of like a community thing, as I've seen. I've seen more and more people creating their own starter packs. And in these starter packs, you'll see, the usuals, the big heavies, and I say the big heavies, I'm talking about, like, Muller She Wrote and Midas Touch and Call to Activism and Jojo from Jers and, all of those big accounts, because frankly, those are the accounts that kind of gave Twitter its, its flavor, right? Whether you agree or disagree with those accounts, they always kept shit spicy, right? Spicy and entertaining. So you look for them, but I think it's also important to help those mid-level and smaller accounts grow. So I've enjoyed doing that. Today, I released my third starter pack, and if you haven't made it to my starter pack yet, worry not. I will get you. And actually, message me on Blue Sky if I have missed you. Please message me. I will make it a point of adding you to a starter pack. But yeah, I love doing it. I love it when people come back to me and they're like, "Yo, BDD, my account got a huge boost when you put me in the starter." It feels good. Feels really good. So, the sense of community. We were fragmented for a while in Twitter. Whatever it was that Elon did to the algorithm that scattered us. Right? There were people telling me for months and even for a year, like, "Yo, BDD, I have you in my notifications. I used to see your tweets all the time, and now I don't see them." Why? That's because my tweets were going directly to MAGAville, and MAGAville was raining shit upon my tweets every day, all day long. So, anyway, Blue Sky is great. If you haven't been there yet, jump on in. The water's nice. Substack is another thing where I have been able to stretch my creative muscles, and this is where I've gone to produce my longer form content. Because I noticed that on Twitter, for instance, I'm able to create, a tweet that's either 280 characters or 2,800 characters. I can make it as long as I want. And frankly, I like writing longer stuff. That is actually my style. The 280 characters, for me, it took a very long time to learn how to do that effectively. But if given the option, I will always choose to, spread my legs and spread my legs. What am I saying? Stretch my legs, stretch my legs, and take a longer time to say things. My most recent post that I posted last night is my message to MAGA morons. Why we libs give a shit about Trump's idiotic cabinet picks. And I will get into that later. But yeah, it does matter. And so that is on Substack. If you're on Substack, I would kindly ask that you subscribe to my Substack and support my cause. Thank you. Last week, wifey and I just kind of stumbled upon a movie that we enjoyed tremendously. It was like kind of out of left field. I didn't see one commercial for this movie, not one. It was just like it was like some rando small indie pick. And I'm more of like a big movie guy. Like I prefer the movies that have like big explosions and car chases and CGI graphics and all that stuff. Every once in a while, I do like a movie like The Holdovers, which is like smaller and quiet and it's more character driven, or a movie like this, Nutcrackers. And if you see Ben Stiller, right? Ben Stiller, Ben Stiller is a guy who is, as soon as you see him, you think, oh shit, he's going to do something funny. And this was a funny movie, but he was actually kind of like the straight guy in this flick. And it wasn't like a slapstick humor. It was kind of like a really heartfelt, hit you in the feels movie about Ben Stiller plays a guy who's like a busy real estate dude whose sister dies. And actually, his sister and her husband both die at the same time, leaving these four kids? Yeah, it's like four brothers as orphans. And I don't remember the name that these kids have, but these kids were known in town, around town, as being like wild hooligans. Um, so, long story short, he has to help find them a home without them being separated. And that happens often when kids go up for adoption or for foster homes. Sometimes they get split up, and you're watching this thing all along, and you're like, "Come on, dude, just adopt them." I won't spoil what happens for you, but needless to say, it is a very good, uh, heartwarming movie. Highly recommend. Now, this, on the other hand, this is a TV show. It's called Lioness, or Special Ops Lioness, and it's got some high powered names in this show. First, you have Zoe Saldana. She's like the main character. You have Morgan Freeman, who I haven't seen yet. Nicole Kidman in a TV show, a regular. It's a CBS TV show. I think it's on Paramount though. And this is a show about. It actually focuses on a woman who was abused, like she was like in an abusive relationship, but she's tough as nails. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, damn, how did she end up like trapped in this relationship? But she breaks free of that. She runs into a Marine recruiting center, and then her new life just kind of takes off from there. And she becomes like this operative who's like really like a top operative. And this is a badass show. This is more my speed. There's some like, it feels very real. It feels like some Navy SEALs and some Marines and some military and some CIA folks all contributed to the script of this show. Really is entertaining. And I haven't seen Morgan Freeman yet, so I don't know what his role is in this show, but it's very good. I think we're about 4 episodes in. I can't wait to see what happens next. Yeah, that's another scene from the show. And last but not least, there's on Netflix, there's a show, another TV show that wifey and I just started watching. It's called Black Doves, starring Keira Knightley and some other folks from London. It takes place in London, and she plays a spy who is embedded as the wife of a dude who works in the government there in England, um, and she gets involved in some hairy stuff when she has an affair with some dude, and that dude gets killed. He's assassinated, and has to get to the bottom of who ordered the hit and what the hell is going on and why are they trying to kill her. Excellent show. Also, very very engaging. Great performances. This one I'm also 4 episodes in, so if I had to rank this scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 9, maybe a 9.5. It's excellent. And Melissa McQueen, thank you for the reminder. I am watching your comments, guys. Melissa McQueen with the reminder to please smash that like button. Thank you for that. And now let's move on to the actual content of the show, the news content. Today was the jobs report. And now since Donald Trump won this election, now MAGA doesn't have to pretend to hate every job report that comes out. Now, when we see job reports, they're going to be, oh, this is great. So America added the Biden economy added 227,000 jobs in the month of November, which was great. It's actually a pickup from the previous month, which saw a very, very low total of jobs. The unemployment ticked up from 4.1 to 4.2. And there is talk that the Fed may cut rates by 0.25%. And Melissa McQueen, thank you so much for the kind donation. Thank you for that. So that's it. The economy is looking great, and that's mainly because President Biden is still, despite the fact that we're hearing all this noise about Trump's cabinet picks, he ain't the president yet. There's only one president at a time, and the president right now is President Biden. And President Biden has come under fire. I don't get it. And really, it's a head scratcher to me. It's a head scratcher. He he made the decision, and I think it was a wise decision, to pardon his son, but he didn't just pardon him. He gave him a blanket pardon. It was like for anything and for everything and anything that he may have or may not have done in this period of time. Me personally, if it was me, I would have given him the pardon from now until the day he was born. That's the blanket I would cover, because these Republicans are assholes right about now. Here's a quote from President Biden, who says, "I also believe raw politics has infected this process, and it led to a miscarriage of justice. And once there was no sense, and once I made this decision this weekend, there was no sense in delaying it further." So what has transpired? What I'll tell you what has transpired is President Biden sat back and let the Department of Justice do its thing. Now, when he talks about a miscarriage of justice, he didn't say that throughout the entire process. He did not weigh in. He didn't say this is a witch hunt. He, like Donald Trump would have said, he would have been on the news every day, all day long, crying witch hunt, witch hunt, witch hunt. He let the prosecution and the judges and everybody do their thing, even though his son was being prosecuted on tax charges and gun charges that anybody else not named Biden would not have gone through that shit. Everybody knows it. I know it. You know it. President Biden knows it. The Republican Party knows it. MAGA knows it. Every fucking person knows it. And you still have these commentators. I don't know why I'm still watching. I am still watching MSNBC or CNN during the day, and it's painful. It's mostly MSNBC. Is really it's disgusting. They are wondering why President Biden, they're criticizing him for having given him Hunter this pardon. These Republicans are still threatening to come after him. I literally just the other day, let me see if I have this. Let's see. Pretty sure. Hang on. Let me just take a peek here. Oh, yeah. I have it. Okay. Hang on. Share screen. Show. Here we go. This is from Newsmax.
This is nonsense. Nobody's going to be going after Liz Cheney and some of the other people that they've mentioned along the way. We've got work to do. Now, on the same note, people want accountability. So I do think on the Oversight Committee, there'll be a continued investigation of the highly corrupt actions taken by Hunter under the oversight and direction likely and assistance and support of Joe Biden. But that's...
Okay, so he in the space of 5 seconds, he contradicted himself. Nobody's going to be going after Liz Cheney and this person and that person. And misdemeanor. Thank you so much. Thank you very kindly for that donation. Appreciate you. Thank you. Bernadette says, "Don't watch them bitches, BDD." In the space of 10 seconds, he says, nobody's coming after Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff, but we are going to continue to investigate Hunter Biden. I mean, wasn't it enough that you showed the man's junk on the floor of the House? Isn't it enough? Hasn't he been through enough? As much as these motherfuckers cried about how Brett Kavanaugh was treated, that was one day. Or what was it, a couple of days? 2-3 days? And what did he do? He was accused, credibly accused, of assaulting a woman in college. 3 days. And I can't believe this. They threw out all of the FBI investigations, all of the leads they had got thrown out. This dude ends up with all of his bills paid. Hunter Biden has been investigated throughout President Biden's time in office and through part of Trump's time in office. Isn't it enough? 6 fucking years? Come on. He's a private citizen. Here's a funny thing, right? Let's talk about private citizen, right? Because Matt Gaetz, there was an investigation into Matt Gaetz, an ethics investigation into Matt Gaetz. This thing was so serious. This ethics investigation looking into Matt Gaetz was so serious that he had to take himself out of the running for, yet again, another position that he was not qualified for, Attorney General of the United States. He was credibly accused of, I don't know how to say this. I guess it's statutory rape, because when you say sex with an underage girl, well, first of all, an underage girl is a child. So that's sex with a child. I don't know why everybody is like bending over backwards to sugarcoat it. Call it what it is. It's disgusting. So what happens to that investigation? Well, he's no longer a member of the House of Representatives. He's a normal citizen. So we should just let this investigation go. But you can't let these investigations of Hunter Biden, who has never been, by the way, an elected official, you can't let him go. Come on. It is sickening. Sickening. And these news jackasses, these so-called TV journalists, whatever you want to call them, it's mind-blowing. It's head-scratching that they still think that they're still trying to both sides this thing. Oh, President Biden, he no longer has the high ground, the ethical high ground. Yeah, yes, he does. He does, because he has not been uh, found guilty or liable for sexual assault. He's not an adjudicated rapist. He's not a convicted felon. He hasn't been impeached once or twice. He hasn't been impeached at all. He hasn't tried to incite insurrection. He hasn't denied Donald Trump a peaceful transfer of power. So when you try to equivocate and you try to say, oh, he doesn't have the moral high ground, what the fuck are you actually talking about? This drives me nuts. This is part of the reason we lost, because our side is constantly bending over backwards to try to both sides shit for some reason. This is not both sides reality anymore, folks. There's one side that's doing some really funky, dirty shit in our faces, and we're trying to play this game straight up. You can't play this straight up anymore. There's got to be some curveballs, huh? So let's talk about some curveballs. First of all, let me put this up here. First of all, let's talk about these preemptive pardons. Okay, maybe somebody like Dr. Fauci, maybe he needs legal cover, right? Because they rabidly want to come after him. They want to punish him, And Donald Trump is not helping matters by nominating these fucking idiots. Guys like Kash Patel, who have an axe to grind. You're sending a signal that we have to cover our rear flank, our left flank, our right flank. We'll cover all of our flanks. General Mark Milley, who has been threatened with the court-martial and to be executed for treason. Come on now. Of course he needs a preemptive pardon or some kind of fucking protection because he said mean things about Donald Trump. That's what this is all about. Same thing goes for Liz Cheney and Adam Schiff. Although Adam Schiff has said, I don't need it. And maybe Adam Schiff doesn't need it because he's a lawyer. Maybe he can defend himself. But there are like dozens of people, reporters, people in the media, stuff like that, who aren't lawyers, who cannot afford a legal defense. When I say a legal defense, like when the Department of Justice comes down on you, you got to be able to pay. And if you can't pay, you're up shit's creek without a paddle. So, yeah, so that's one thing. I think if you can take one line of attack away from Donald Trump, if you can do that, I think that's good. I think it's a good thing. And yeah, maybe weigh the options, weigh who needs this kind of protection the most. Make it optional. Put out the feelers and let them know, look, we are willing to extend this to you. And there are reasons why people wouldn't want to take a preemptive pardon. Like, for one, if you take a preemptive pardon, it means that you are admitting to guilt. And, a lot of these people maybe don't necessarily Oh, boom. Guys, if you see a troll in there, just kick him the fuck out. I don't have patience for that bullshit, right? I took care of that one at USA One thing, but help a brother out. um, but yeah, as far as people who may or may not want pardon, one reason they might not want it is because they don't want that on their record. If you accept a pardon, it means you are admitting guilt. And the majority of these people, I would say 99.9% of these people, they don't have anything to feel guilty about. They basically were just telling the truth about that jackass and the threat he poses and the things that he did. Miva Word says Democrats needs to get on board and start acting like real badass. Hell to the yay. Yes. I saw there's lots of memes out there about Kamala Harris becoming president for a day or a week or whatever. I saw this and I thought this was hilarious. I posted it on Blue Sky. MAGA went, oh, wait, was this on Blue Sky or on Twitter? I can't remember. But MAGA, when Biden steps down and lets Harris finish out his term so she becomes the 47th president and all their 45 to 47 merch is useless. I think that's funny. That's funny as hell. Yeah. So, yeah, he should do that. Why not? Why not? What can they do? He has presidential immunity. What are they going to do? They're going to prosecute him for doing that shit. You know, maybe he just and all he'd have to do is say, you know what? I'm tired. I needed a break. I didn't feel I could finish out my term. And there are again, there are arguments here. You could say, well, you know, if he did that, it would be on his record. That would go down in history. And so what? We're in a different phase of history right now, right? First of all, he was kind of pressured. He was kind of pressured into stepping aside for Kamala Harris. When has that happened before? Sitting president, who as highly accomplished as President Biden, was asked to step aside. I don't know when that's happened before. I can tell you when it was voluntarily done. It was Lyndon B. Johnson said he wasn't going to run. That's different. But and then Kamala Harris had 107 days to like whip together an incredible effort that she put forth. Fell short. So these are unusual times. When in history have we ever elected a convicted felon? This never happened before. It's never happened. So these are unusual times. And frankly, unusual times call for unusual actions. And so would it be unusual for President Biden to step aside and let President Harris take over for a day or for a week? Yeah, it would be unusual. So, so you know what else is unusual? Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence. That's unusual. RFK Jr. as the head of Health and Human Services Administration. That's unusual. Matt Gaetz, unusual. Pete Hegseth, unusual. I could go on. Unusual. So, you know, stranger things I can say will have happened than Kamala Harris becoming president for a day. I want to see it. Oh, I want to see her sworn in. I want to see MAGA heads explode. Yeah, there's no practical reason to do it, but why not? Give me a good reason why not. Anybody. Really, I would like to hear what is the reason. Yeah, and again, tiny margin of victory. Donald Trump does not have a mandate. He is, in fact, a lame duck. He is a lame duck president. He's going into this. He's going into office as a lame duck, which, again, that's also unusual. It's unusual when you have a guy stepping into office knowing that he can only serve those 4 years because he's already served. When has that happened? Only one other time in history. He's a lame duck. And that should not be lost on the left. I'm still seeing defeatist kind of rhetoric out there. I see people say, like, I read my replies all the time, mostly on Blue Sky. I've almost given up reading my replies on Twitter, but Blue Sky now it's entertaining once again. And there are people in my Blue Sky replies are like, oh, what's the point? Because he won, and in the next 4 years are going to be horrible, and blah blah blah. People really are just kind of like drowning in despair, and there's no reason to despair, none, because we have been here before. And the difference is, the last time we were here, we were looking at the possibility of 8 years of that son of a bitch. Now it's only 4. So, his presidency is already weakened, and we have fought him to a standstill before, and we will do it again. I said what I said. Let's talk about this nasty motherfucker. Nick Fuentes is a white supremacist. And on election night, he posted a nasty video in which he was gloating, and he announced to women, "Your body, my choice, forever." And this was disgusting. It was really it was disgusting on so many different levels, right? But obviously, it was disgusting because he was doing it to troll women, but he was also doing it because this is what he believed. And I am going to share with you something that he posted afterwards. He kind of doubled down on this sentiment.
So I am now going viral on TikTok, Twitter, Google search trends for my very funny clip on my election night stream. In a moment of exuberance and jubilation, I excitedly declared that since Donald Trump became the president, women's bodies are now under our control. And I mean that. I said it's their body, but it is our choice. And politically, I'm obsessed with controlling women's bodies. I'm going to tell them what they're allowed to do with them. It's my decision. We as males, we as men control their bodies.
All right, shut the fuck up, you asshole. So, after that, needless to say, there was a swift and angry. My videos echo. Oh, interesting. I'll have to look into why that is, Cindy C. Thanks for the heads up. There was a swift and angry response to Nick Fuentes in that he was doxxed. Now, I don't condone that. I first of all, I don't condone Nick Fuentes. I think he's a disgusting, horrible person, and he should have never been allowed back on Twitter. But I obviously I disagree wholeheartedly with doxing people, even people as nasty as him, because if somebody on their side gets doxed, then somebody on our side gets doxed, and it's not fun. It's not fun. I've already had people sending shit to my house, and that's not cool. But it happened, right? So he did get doxxed. And by dox, if you're not familiar with the term, dox means when somebody posts your personal information, specifically your home address, et cetera, et cetera. It's supposed to be against Twitter's terms and conditions. I think that's what it is. It's against their terms and conditions. But people did it anyway. They were like, fuck you, you son of a bitch. And so he did, in fact, reap the whirlwind of his behavior. And I just want to share with you. So there's a guy who has an account called Advice from Lewis. And this dude creates some of the funniest videos I've seen in a long time. I don't know if he's new or if he's been around for a while, but I've already seen like a handful of his videos. And he does it like he's multiple characters and he's like troll comments. It's very funny. So let's see. Let me share this with you. Share screen.
Nick Fuentes.
This is his take on the Nick Fuentes thing.
Nick Fuentes is under attack after saying, "Your body, my choice." Nick started the "Your Body, My Choice" trend. Women have finally responded by doxing his address and are now saying, "Your house, our choice." He feels unsafe the same way he made women feel unsafe. This one's different. His life could be in danger. And he put women's lives in danger when he told them, "Your body, my choice." Young men started copying. But he was just expressing his free speech by saying the joke. There was nothing funny about rape. The fact that you're defending that says a lot about you. I just think the internet needs to stop taking things too far and stop harassing it. What happened to free speech? What happened to your hairline? Free speech is only okay when it's used against groups like hate. But when it's against people that actually love. That doesn't make sense. Either the fact that Nick Fuentes had a blur his house on Google Images. Now when he's in public, it feels like he's in danger. Women when they want to go on a walk at night or go to a bar. It's funny that. Just because you threaten half the population doesn't mean they need to retaliate against them. You don't want bad things to happen to you. What? With bad things on other people, because I have no sympathy. Are you saying people are tired of being the bigger person? They're finally retaliating against people like him? Because it doesn't matter what you say. It's too late. Project 2025. Bloody bad shit. Nick Fuentes is under attack after saying, "Your body, my choice."
So yeah, that's this guy. His account is Advice from Lewis. It's just he's got a very small following on Twitter. It's very funny. So echo. I got a few people saying echo. Okay, I got to look into that. Sorry guys, I don't know what. I don't know what's causing that. So, all right. So fast forward to Nick Fuentes gets a visit from a 51-year-old woman. I don't know her name, but she shows up at his door. And now, Nick Fuentes is feeling unsafe. So he opens the door and without even asking what's your deal, he pepper sprays her in the face. Just no questions, just sprayed. Pepper spray is a very manly thing for you to do, Nick. You're such a manly alpha dog that you had to spray a 57-year-old woman in the face with mace. And so as a result, he got arrested today. This is a rare moment of good news when bad shit happens to bad people. So he has been arrested for it's not assault, it's battery. Arrested for battery. So this is good. I like it. So there's another issue that came out in the news earlier this week. There was a murder in New York City. Now, that's not unusual because murders happen all the time. This was a relatively high profile or high net worth individual, I should say, that was murdered. And he was the CEO of United Healthcare. And we have seen video already of the perpetrator whose face was obscured by his hood and by a mask, and looked like he didn't really know what he was doing. So he doesn't look like he's a professional assassin, but he basically came up behind this dude, and so now there's a manhunt looking for him. His face has been shown on from several different angles. And I'm surprised. I'm kind of surprised that he hasn't been caught yet, because there have been some good pictures shown of his face. But what else has happened since then is that there's been an interesting response on social media, in that people kind of ghoulishly celebrating what had happened. Now, I get that. I get that people are suffering when it comes to health insurance. I know that, in fact, I saw a chart earlier today that shows that United Healthcare is responsible for rejecting 32% of the claims that come their way. That is the highest amount of claim rejections out of all of the major insurers. So that's significant. 1/3 of the claims they get are rejected. That's serious. And for all we know, the attacker, we don't know what his motive is, but we can assume, since he did engrave on the bullets, deny, shit. There's 3 words, deny, 3 D words on that he wrote on the bullets that relate to a book that was written about healthcare and about people's claims being denied. So it looks like deny, defend, depose. Thank you, Carol Glynn, for that. Deny, defend, depose. Yeah. And so it looks like he was making a statement with this murder. So he didn't just murder this person, but he's like making a political statement about healthcare. For all we know, the reason he has not yet been identified is because perhaps he lost his mother, or his delay. Thank you. Wait, delay, deny, defend, and depose, or delay, defend. It's many D's. Okay. Maybe his parents possibly passed away after having been denied coverage, or another loved one who could have identified him. He has, like, the picture I saw shows him smiling. It looks like, that if that were my friend, I'd be like, oh shit, that's Joe, or Mark, or whomever. Nurse Mitch says she works for a health insurance company and they have a young CEO, so it hit home. I believe this guy was 50 years old. That's young. Sandra from Paramount, California says United Healthcare denies 60% of all claims for patients who need a specialist, and 35% of claims for patients with life-threatening conditions. That is disgusting. I did not know those numbers. And here's Eddie G. Eddie G, it's so good to see you back in the fold with us again. Eddie G, welcome back. Saying it doesn't matter, whatever the reason, you didn't get to take someone's life. I agree 1000% with that. I understand. Don't get me wrong. I do understand people having grievances about, losing a loved one as a result of an unfair verdict from an insurance company. But at the end of the day, you don't get to make that decision to take a life. even though the insurance company basically did exactly that. I can only hope that this opens up a larger discussion that doesn't go away about insurance companies and what they're doing, denying all these claims. And maybe there needs to be an investigation. Somebody needs to look into what the hell is happening. And last but not least, on the cases, the legal cases that are going on, this is another New York case. So there was the subway subway strangler. Is that what they're calling him? I'm not sure, but this guy, he's the subway chokehold killer, Daniel Penny, who killed Jordan Neely, who's pictured here on the left. Jordan Neely was homeless, and he was also a Michael Jackson impersonator, as you can see from the picture there. So apparently what had happened one day, I feel like this was a year or two ago. It was recently. He'd gotten on the subway and he was distressed. And if you're from New York City, this is not an unfamiliar occurrence. This happens at least once a week. Maybe somebody really disturbed gets on the subway and starts yelling and screaming and et cetera, et cetera. Daniel Penny thought that he was a threat. And so Daniel Penny has some combat experience from the military, and he went into action and he grabbed Jordan in a chokehold and held him like that for 6 minutes. And then Jordan died. So, so that's what happened. And now Daniel Penny is waiting for a verdict. He's waiting for a jury to return a verdict on whether or not he goes to jail for, I think now it's 4 years, because they've already told the judge that they are deadlocked. They could not come to. There were 2 different counts that that they had to weigh in on. Count number 1 is manslaughter in the 2nd degree. They could not come to an agreement on that. That was the more serious one. That one carried a 15 to 20 year sentence, maximum sentence. And count number 2 was criminally negligent homicide. And so it's unclear if the judge is going to declare a mistrial or if he's going to tell them to just give them instructions just to weigh in on count 2. So I personally, like I said, if I've seen it once, I've seen it 100 times. A very disturbed individual getting on the train, on the subway, and yelling and screaming and making a general nuisance of himself. I've never seen anybody choke them out, choke them to death. So I understand. Here's another instance where, maybe Daniel Penny might have had good intentions of keeping himself and keeping the people around him safe. Maybe he was legitimately concerned. And maybe it was an accident. In fact, I'm fairly sure it was an accident. I don't think Daniel Penny got on the subway that day deciding that he was going to kill somebody. I don't think that's what happened. But I do think he accidentally killed somebody. And I think when you accidentally kill somebody, I don't think you get to walk away from that scot-free. When you take a life, that's serious. That's serious. And it wasn't like, bang, bang. It wasn't like a quick decision kind of thing. He held him there for 6 long fucking minutes. And this is in the wake of George Floyd. So, that's my opinion. So let's get into this this discussion about Pete Hegseth, Pete Hegseth is Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense. Secretary of Defense will have to oversee a labyrinthian bureaucracy at the Pentagon. He has some military experience, but his military experience does not, in my opinion, qualify him to oversee the biggest bureaucracy possibly in the world. I made the analogy in my my written piece on Substack that if, Joe Sixpack worked the assembly line at Ford Motor for 20 years, it doesn't qualify him to step in and be Ford Motors CEO. It doesn't. Just because he has military experience doesn't mean that he gets to, be in charge of the whole entire military. This is not something that's like, a decision made on a whim because you like how the guy looks on TV. That's stupid. That's stupid. This guy, this person who is going to be in charge of the entire military that keeps us safe, he has to be level. He has to be level-headed. He has to know what the fuck he's doing. And right now, this guy is saying, if I get the job, I'll stop drinking. So I take that personally because I can't drink anymore. Now, here's a fun fact that you guys don't know. When I was 17 years old, 17, in 1985, it was the very first time I entered a drug rehabilitation facility. It was known as Phoenix House. I was there for 2.5 years, 29 months I was there. And I got to meet Nancy Reagan. That is me, ladies and gentlemen, on the right side of the screen there, shaking Nancy Reagan's hand as I was about to give her a tour of the adolescent facility of Phoenix House in upstate New York. And I was only in Phoenix House for weed. That was the heaviest drug I had done to that point in my life was marijuana. That was it. And drug addiction was still so relatively new back then. The whole concept was still like psychiatrists were still workshopping it, that they would give us drinking privileges upon graduation. So when you graduated the program, it was an 18 to 24 month program. Once you graduated, you were given drinking privileges. Kind of crazy now. So now, after that phase kind of failed a lot of us, they changed the rules and they said, okay, no more drinking privileges. And somebody determined that alcohol is a drug. And in many ways, alcohol is a lot more difficult to overcome than the hard stuff, than the heroin, than the cocaine, than the crack. It's harder because it's more socially acceptable. There's so many different situations you could find yourself in. And in my early sobriety that began August 17th, 2003, it was very difficult because you go to work, there's a celebration, there's a Christmas celebration, so everybody's hoisting a little cup of champagne. I'll have ginger ale, please. I was steady with the ginger ale. 4th of July picnic, cookout, whatever. There are beers, Coronas going all around. I'm good. I got my ginger ale, and you got to stick with that. That's it. That's it. And beer, uh, beer is everywhere. Booze is everywhere, and honestly, people don't give a shit if you drink. I could go to 7-Eleven right now, pick up a 6-pack, and nobody would blink twice at me. I'm like, yeah, have fun. Of course, my family would be devastated by it. 21 years I've been sober, and it's a big deal. It's a big deal for me. I talk about it. I talk about it on Twitter. I talk about it because I want to help destigmatize the whole idea of addiction, there's shame. There's shame in it, when you're young in your sobriety. You don't want people to know. It's, you've done things, and I've admitted to doing things that I was not proud of. And of course, the trolls online, they never miss an opportunity to throw it in my face. And what's funny is that the very same people who abuse me on a regular basis, they jump at the chance to slam me about the things that I did 21 years ago. They are rushing to Pete Hegseth's defense. Oh, give him a break. That drinking thing was only 6 years ago. 6 years ago isn't ancient history. If you want to argue that something is ancient history and you should stop harassing someone about, it would be, my addiction from 21 years ago. But no. We can't extend that to you, Brooklyn Dad. But Pete Hegseth, whose own Fox News coworkers were so concernicus about him because he was drinking on the job. They could smell booze on his breath, not 21 years ago, 6 years ago. Again, relatively recent. Booze is something that, it takes a while to kick because there's so much social acceptance, right? And if you're going to address it, you can't just say, if I get the job, I'll quit drinking. That's not how it works. You really have to commit yourself to not drinking anymore. You got to join a 12-step at the bare minimum, you got to join a 12-step group. You have to examine what your triggers are. You have to eliminate those triggers from your life. You got to get a sponsor. You got to work on that. And you got to work on your own personal issues. There's a whole lot that goes into that. You can't be flippant about that sort of commitment. And it is a commitment. And while he's dealing with that shit, he cannot be our Secretary of Defense. Do that shit on your own time. You're young. You can come back. Look at Lloyd Austin, our current Secretary of Defense. He's old. He's like in his 60s. You come back later, dude, when you get some sobriety under your belt. Because right now, he's not sober. He's in such a bad shape that he had to have his mom Eddie G says, but his mommy said he's all grown up now because he's been a Fox News host. Yeah. Yeah. Here's the crazy thing. The crazy thing is that they were saying that Kamala Harris was, not only did they say she was unqualified, she, who is a former district attorney, attorney general, United States senator, and vice president, they had the audacity not only to say that she was not qualified, But they even like tried to malign her they tried to say that she was drunk. That she had a drunken laugh and all that bullshit. And this clown, they're letting him ride all the way. What is the point? Is there nobody else? Is there nobody else who can do the job? They have discussed the possibility of Ron DeSantis, another winner right there, Ron DeSantis. And again, see my remark about Joe Sixpack, who worked at Ford Motor for 20 years. I think Ron DeSantis, at the very least, he has a leg up on Pete Hegseth, because at least Ron DeSantis is a governor. So he has executive experience at managing a large. I don't like Ron DeSantis, but I will say this. I'd feel less terrified if Ron DeSantis were the guy at the Pentagon. I don't like that pick either, but if I had to choose, yeah, they called Kamala a whore, as Melissa McQueen has pointed out. Yeah, it was awful. And you're giving this guy so many a pass because he looks good on TV? That's stupid. That's idiotic. And all of his picks really have just been unhinged, from Matt Gaetz. That's insane. Tulsi Gabbard, who Russian media openly brags about her being, Putin's gal. You don't want someone who Russian media loves. You don't want her in charge of our national secrets. I'm sorry. No, it's a big no. Again, pick somebody else. Pick somebody who is not a glaring red flag like Tulsi Gabbard. Anybody. And RFK Jr., now you're just fucking with us. Now you're just fucking with us. And it makes me feel all of these insane picks make me believe that that there's something afoot. Like they're trying to make us look over here to distract from what they're doing over here. My guess is that, they're over the past week or so, I've been hearing rumblings about them going after Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. That is concerning. I am quite concernicus about that. So maybe all of this nonsense noise is to take our eye off of that ball. I don't know. I also don't trust what Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk are up to either. And what they're going to try to do, they're going to try to peel away our benefits, little by little or all at once. Yeah. So that's what's oops. Yeah, that's what's going on. And originally I was going to read some more of The Littlest President to you guys. But I think I'll have to save that for another time because I've already gone past the time that I wanted to speak. There was I'm sorry, guys. There was a lot of different issues that I did want to touch on in this episode. And overall, I want to say this. I want to say, if you're still feeling despair, don't. I get it. I understand that you're scared. I understand that there is a very real threat that people will be hurt in the next 2 to 4 years. I understand that Donald Trump is deliberately, as crazy as his other cabinet picks have been, his picks for immigration and for the border are very serious. He is not fucking around there. And it looks like he really is gearing up to deport a whole lot of people. But despair. Peeper says, I gave up on despair. Don't be mad, be bitter. Yeah, I think bitter is better because there's a tinge of anger to that. And angry makes you want to do something, you know. Angry can be productive, you know. But yeah, there are still good people engaged in the fight as we speak. There are people who are not ready to roll over. Like for instance, the House majority, I forget this guy's name. Was it Adam Gray? Just won in California, just flipped the district. So now the House majority is currently 5 seats. That's not a that's not a landslide. That's not a wipeout. That's not a red wave. That's very close. It's a very tight majority. So these Republicans want people to believe this was a landslide. It was nothing of the sort. It was closer to 2022 than it was to you know what a landslide was? Ronald Reagan's victory in 1984. That was a landslide. President Obama's wins were landslides. This, not so much. So yeah, Val's in a van says we should never roll over. Do not obey in advance. And I think that is a perfect note to leave this show on. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me for another episode of Storytime with BDD. I'm your host, BDD, aka Brooklyn Dad. Folks, remember to look out for my articles on Substack. Go ahead right now and subscribe to my my Substack. It's called Defiant Dispatches. I've got some good stuff coming out of there. Already written 4 or 5 articles, something like that, and I will be churning more stuff out every week. And so I look forward to seeing you guys here next week, same time, same place. I love you all. Peace.